Hey, hi guys, hi blogging family. I hope you guys are well. It's storming really bad right now, so if you hear any background noise, there's nothing I can do about it. I saw a question from Anna. I wanted to come on here and answer it and speak to this for a minute. So her comment says, my pressing matter is what I asked about yesterday, another topic that is coming up as a need and something I'm passionate about educating and empowering people about. But I'm no expert in the field it's in. I'm just an advocate for superheroes. I'm trying to figure out how to navigate the liability of it as to whether I want to venture into this area or not. Okay. First of all, I'm going to tell you guys, I am not a risk adverse person. I'm like much more of a risk taking person than a risk adverse person. So just keep that in mind. And I'm not qualified in any way to give you any kind of legal advice. But here's how it feels to me. I speak to mental health as someone that has depression and anxiety, right? I'm not a therapist. I don't claim to be a therapist, right? But I am qualified to speak on my own experiences. I'm qualified to share things that have worked for me. I'm qualified to share tools and resources that I have found on my journey with other people, right? I have information that I know can help other women because it's helped me, right? And so my mission is to share that information. I think, first of all, it's really, really important. I'm always very transparent with people, if not, like, if anything, downplay my professional skills. I do have a background in social work and I do have a background in counseling, right? But I don't speak to that on my website. I just present myself as I'm someone that has depression and anxiety. Here's some things that worked for me. Here's some things that you could try. Here's my experience, right? Here's what it was like for me. And here's some things I did, right? I don't ever present myself as a mental health professional. And I think as long as you're not misleading people about your qualifications, it's fine. You're allowed to speak about mental health without being a therapist, right? And this idea, there's a lot of fear, and I get this question a lot about people not wanting to blog about mental health, and I think that's really too bad. And I'm not sure what topic you're specifically like speaking about, but it sounds like it's a similar topic, right? My dog is right here. It sounds like it's a similar topic, where in my mind, it's like, the more people that are talking about depression and anxiety, the better, right? The more people that are talking about it, the better. I'm not serving anyone by keeping my story, my experiences to myself. And then the other way I look at this is like, if I had a medical condition, if I had diabetes, I could write about my experiences with diabetes, and I could share with people, these are products I've used, these are things I've used, these are things I do to regulate my blood sugar. This is what it's like for me living with diabetes. Here's a story about, something that happened. So people feel less alone, and I'm connecting them with resources. I'm not claiming to be a doctor. I'm not claiming to have the cure for diabetes, right? I'm sharing my experience and I'm sharing my experiences and my truth, right? And as long as I'm speaking from my truth, I don't see any issue with it, right? You have to be, I think the key is be transparent about your qualifications, be transparent about your background, right? What experience do you have? What perspective are you speaking from, right? Are you, do you have a loved one that suffers from diabetes? Do you suffer from diabetes? Do you, do research on diabetes? What is your perspective on it? Be transparent about, you never want to misrepresent who you are, right? And I know Anna, I met her at Activate. I know she would never do that, right? And I would never do that. I would never go online. If I were going online and telling people, I'm a therapist, I'm qualified to give you therapy, that would be unethical, right? That would be very, very unethical. But I don't do that. I say, I've gone to therapy a lot. You should go to therapy too. Here's some resources. Here's what it's like when you go to therapy the first time, right? Here's some fear that might come up for you when you go to therapy. Here's how to find a good therapist. Here's links to therapists, right? Here's how to find them. Here's the networks, right? Here's how to make sure people are qualified. I'm giving people resources, but I'm not saying I'm a therapist, right? I just refer people. I refer people to mental health professionals every day on my blog, right? And I do a lot of like informal counseling in my messages, because I get a lot of email and messages from people every day that are struggling, right? And I don't counsel people, I refer them to therapists. I refer them, I tell them I'm not qualified to handle this. But I think as long as you're transparent, you're upfront, you tell people, why do you care about this topic? What perspective are you bringing? The idea that you have to be an expert to talk about something and have something valuable to add to a conversation is just not true, right? The fact that I'm not a therapist, I could tell myself, and I think a lot of people do this, like, oh, I can't talk about mental health online, I'm not a therapist. Like, you can't, like, that's nuts to me, right? It's not, you wouldn't think about that. I don't know why I'm using diabetes as an example. If anyone has diabetes, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be offensive. If I had diabetes, I wouldn't say, well, I'm not a doctor, I'm not qualified to talk about diabetes, right? Or if I had a family member that had diabetes, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm not qualified to tell other people what it's like, to have a partner or to have a family member or to have whoever, in their life is diabetes, because I'm not a doctor. I'm qualified to talk about my experiences, right? If I have a spouse that has an illness and I'm supporting them and helping them live through that experience, and I want to share those experiences with people, here's what it's like for us, here's what it's been like for us, here's the struggles and fear that came up for me and how I moved through them, here's some resources we used. I can share that, and that's very useful information. And if I told myself, oh, I can't speak on that because I'm not a doctor, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, we need all different perspectives. We need expert opinions, like we do. We need expert support, but we need, a lot of times, like, what people want that perspective, right? If your husband has cancer and you have to support him through cancer, you might want to hear from a wife, right, that has kids, that has walked through this experience, right? You might want to hear from someone who's not a doctor, right? She's not an expert. She's just sharing her experience. This is what it was like for my family. This is what we went through. This is how we got through it. These are some things that helped me. This is what it was like when I had a bad day, and this is, whatever it is, and sharing resources. And that information and that perspective is valuable, right? So the expert, the expert perspective is valuable. If your husband has cancer, you want to be researching, I'm sure, and looking at what experts are saying and what you should be doing. But you might also want the perspective of someone that has had a family member go through cancer who's not an expert, right, but has lived through an experience. So if you've lived through an experience, or you've supported someone that's lived through an experience, if you have a perspective, if you have information that can help other people, you don't have to be an expert. I'm not an expert, right? I'm not an expert, but I serve thousands of women every day online, right? I serve thousands of women every day online that struggle with depression and anxiety. And the reason a lot of people come to me and feel comfortable talking to me is because I'm not a doctor. I just kind of level with people. I'm like, hey, I'm a normal young girl. This is what I'm going through. This is my struggles. This is what it's like. This is the things I'm processing. I share my struggle. I share resources. I share what I'm going through from the perspective of a peer, right? I'm just another human. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to fix you. I'm not acting like I have all the answers. Does that make sense? But people relate to that. And a big part of my mission is to make people feel less alone. I don't have to be an expert to do that. I don't have to be an expert to make people feel less alone. I just have to speak from my own experiences. Does that make sense? So I'm not sure exactly what topic you're wanting to dive into, but my personal belief is if this is on your heart, you're being called, right? People think being called is God comes out of the sky and shines a spotlight on you and lights up the path, but that's not what it's like, right? A lot of times being called is that nudge in your heart where you're like, I think I want to speak on this. I kind of want to speak on this. That's being called. That's the calling, right? And so my spiritual belief about ideas is when I have an idea and I'm kind of oh, I think I want to speak on this, it's because someone needs to hear the message from me, right? Not from someone else, not from an expert, from me. The way I speak, the way I deliver it, someone needs to hear that message from me. And so my spiritual relationship and my relationship with God is that I always answer the calling. I always answer the calling, right? And that's part of my, what I would see as my spiritual partnership, right? Is I always answer the calling, and then I'm divinely supported and guided, right? because I do the work. If you give me the ideas and you give me the guidance, I will show up and I will answer the calling and I will do the work, right? And that's kind of how I see my spiritual relationship, just with ideas and whatever. And it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not believe in God, you still have the capacity to help people, you know? And so it just depends how you choose to look at it. So Anna, let me know if that helps you at all. Let me know what you need clarity around. Let me know what's coming up for you with this. You know, I think sometimes we're called to do things that are hard, right? We're called to do things that are difficult, and we're called to do things that are uncomfortable, right? And sometimes those are the things that bring us the biggest blessings, right? The things that have expanded my life, my business, like really changed who I am and my whole like kind of being, are the things that you kind of stop and go, I don't know, like, should I be doing this? You know, this is kind of hard to speak on. I don't know if I should speak on this. Am I the right person to speak on this? But a lot of times if you can work through all of that, that's kind of where the next step of your business is. So that's how it's been for me anyway. So let me know. Oh, I just saw you got on here. So let me know, watch this video. I hope I like kind of gave you some clarity and answered your question, but if not, just let me know and I'm happy to give you more clarity, and I'm happy to speak more on my own experience about speaking on mental health. But you know, I've been an advocate for mental health for a long time, long before I was like a blogger. So I'm very comfortable sharing publicly about it, and the fact that I'm not an expert doesn't like faze me at all. I know I have the tools to help people. I know I have stories that can help people. I know I have resources that can help people. And so in my mind, I share them as loudly and as often on every platform, right, that I possibly can, because my mission is to help women feel less alone and to help as many people as I can. So that's kind of how I see it. And yeah, and like I said, I just am not bothered with like liability and stuff like that. I always feel like as long as I come from a place of service and I'm very transparent about not being a therapist, about not being a professional, it literally on every email I ever send, you know, it says like, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a mental health professional, I'm not licensed. Like, you know, it says that stuff all over my stuff, but people don't care, right? This is the thing, is like, can you help people or can you not? Like, you know, people don't care that I'm not a therapist. They don't care. They're, you know, do I have information that can help them or not? And, you know, the people that feel drawn to me and feel like I can help them follow me and read my stuff, and the people that don't feel like that don't, and that's fine, right? But no one is opening my email going, oh, she's not a therapist, I don't care what I have to say. If I say something useful, that's all people care about. People don't care that I'm not an expert. People care if I can help them. Can you solve a problem for them, right? That's what people care about. People could care less. I feel like people could care less if I was a therapist. I don't think I would make any more money, you know, doing what I'm doing if I were a therapist. And I think I could have a coaching business, to be honest with you. I think I could have a full-time life coaching business if I wanted to, because people don't care that I'm not a therapist. They want to work with me because they think I can help them, right? And they don't care that I'm not a therapist. So I think if I were like a life coach or something like that, people would still want to work with me. So anyway, okay, I'm gonna get off of here. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I can give you any clarity around that. I hope that helps. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any more questions. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good day.